This content is produced by Pass the CSLB, an independent audio-first study companion for busy California B general candidates. I build these lessons from official CSLB study guide topics and reputable source-backed California materials so you can study on the go. This is exam prep reinforcement, not legal, professional, engineering, or job-specific advice. Exam content is set by PSI and the CSLB and may change, so always verify current requirements against official CSLB materials. No exam outcome is guaranteed. Now let's get into it. The roof slope makes the first underlayment decision. If I misread that slope, every roll count and every course that follows can be wrong even when the workmanship looks clean. For asphalt shingles, the dividing line is a roof pitch of 4 and 12. A slope from 2 and 12 up to, but not including. 4 and 12 requires 2 layers of underlayment. A slope of exactly 4 and 12 begins the 1-layer range. That word exactly matters. I put the 2 ranges side by side on the screen. The lower range begins at 2 and 12 and stops just before 4 and 12. That is the 2-layer range. The upper range begins at exactly 4 and 12 and continues steeper. That is the 1-layer range. Do not let the phrase up to 4 and 12 pull the exact threshold into the wrong row. I think of the lower range as the slow water zone. A shallower roof sheds water less quickly, so water has more opportunity to remain near shingle joints and move through narrow openings. The extra underlayment layer adds a second line of defense above the wood deck. I am describing the supported physical effect, not claiming why a code body adopted a particular sentence. The memory connection is simple. Below 4, add more. At 4, 1 layer begins. Suppose a porch roof is 3 and 12. That roof falls inside the 2-layer range. Now suppose an adjacent main roof is 4 and 12. The main roof begins the 1-layer range. Those 2 planes may meet on the same project, yet the underlayment takeoff and field check differ. That is why a supervisor needs the actual slope rather than a quick visual guess. This rule does not give permission to approve any roof below 2 and 12 for asphalt shingles. It only defines the supported range covered in this lesson. I would verify the approved plans, the current California code, the roofing product instructions, and any local requirements before installation. Based on the published contractor study outline, roofing is testable material, but nobody outside the testing authorities knows which facts any individual exam will contain. Calling the lower slope assembly a double layer does not mean rolling one complete sheet over another complete sheet and hoping the result counts. The required application creates the 2-layer coverage through a specific interlapped pattern. At the Eave, the installer begins with a strip that is 19 inches wide. The following courses use sheets that are 36 inches wide. Each full-width sheet overlaps the preceding sheet by 19 inches. That repeated overlap produces continuous 2-layer coverage as the work moves up the roof. The practical inspection point is the starter. If the first strip is wrong, the pattern above it cannot magically correct itself. Before many courses cover the work, I want to see the 19-inch starter at the Eave, the 36-inch sheets, and the repeated 19-inch overlap. I also want the material takeoff to reflect the extra coverage. A 3 and 12 porch roof does not consume underlayment like a standard 1-layer roof of the same deck area. Imagine a crew that installs 2 independent full sheets, one directly on top of the other, with ordinary laps. The roof may look like it has plenty of material, but that is not the specified interlapped method described in the research. The field decision is to pause before the roof covering conceals the pattern, compare the work with the approved requirements, and correct it while the courses remain accessible. The useful memory picture is a half-width start followed by full-width sheets that keep reaching back 19 inches. The term half-width is only a memory aid here. The number I need to retain is 19 inches for the starter and the overlap, paired with a 36-inch sheet. Layer count is only one part of the weather barrier. The laps and the fastening pattern decide whether separate pieces act like one continuous assembly. The reference table groups the course dimensions, seam requirements, and high wind fastening grid. For a standard single layer, the horizontal lap is 2 inches. Where 2 roll ends meet, the end lap is 4 inches. Those end laps are offset at least 6 feet from the end laps in the course below. The offset keeps the vertical seams from lining up course after course. Picture a raindrop trying to find a straight route toward the deck. An aligned stack of end seams gives moisture a more direct weakness to work against. A 6-foot offset breaks that alignment. I still treat the code values as the rule and the raindrop as a memory device, not as a substitute for the actual installation requirements. Distortions in the underlayment must not interfere with shingle sealing. That means a wrinkle, buckle, or fastener condition is not merely cosmetic when it prevents the roof covering from sealing as intended. The appropriate response depends on the approved assembly and product instructions, but the supervisor should identify the condition before shingles hide it. Fastening changes when the project falls within the supported high wind design condition. In those areas, the underlayment fastening grid uses 12-inch spacing between side laps and 6-inch spacing at side and end laps. The specified attachment uses annular ring or deformed shank nails with caps 1 inch in diameter. Metal caps are at least 32 gauge. Plastic cap edges are at least 0.035 inch thick. Outside that high wind design condition, the baseline in the research says the underlayment is fastened sufficiently to hold it in place. That is not a license to improvise. I would confirm the actual wind design, approved documents, product instructions, and local enforcement requirements. A general building supervisor does not decide that a roof is ordinary wind exposure, simply because the morning feels calm. At the roof perimeter, one short phrase carries a lot of value. Over at the eave, under at the rake. The same underlayment meets the same metal edge, but the sequence changes with the location. At the eave, which is the lower horizontal edge, the underlayment goes over the drip edge. At the rake, which is the sloped gable edge, the underlayment goes under the drip edge. Over at the eave, under at the rake. The water path helps the phrase stick. At the eave, water moving down the roof needs to continue over the metal and off the assembly. At the rake, wind can push rain sideways against the edge, so the metal protects the underlayment edge from above. The research supports the resulting water management effect. I do not need to invent a code history story to make the sequence memorable. Adjacent drip edge pieces overlap by at least 2 inches. The drip edge extends at least 1/4 inch below the roof sheathing and at least 2 inches back onto the roof deck. These are small dimensions with a large coordination effect because the perimeter detail becomes difficult to repair neatly after the roof covering is complete. Consider a hypothetical walkthrough before asphalt shingles begin. The underlayment lies over the metal at both the eave and the rake. The eave condition follows the supported sequence, but the rake does not. I would stop that portion of the work, verify the approved detail, and have the rake sequence corrected while it remains exposed. Secure fasteners do not make the wrong layering order correct. This is a useful example of field supervision across trades and stages. The person installing the drip edge and the person rolling underlayment may not be the same person. The general building responsibility is to coordinate the sequence and recognize the mismatch before concealment. Ice barrier measurement starts with climate, not with a universal assumption. The supported requirement applies in areas with a history of ice forming at the eaves. Where that condition triggers the barrier, the measurement runs from the lowest roof edge to a point at least 24 inches inside the exterior wall line of the building. The phrase inside the wall line is the part most likely to prevent an estimating mistake. The requirement is not simply a 24-inch strip measured from the gutter edge. Imagine an invisible vertical plane rising through the exterior wall. The membrane has to pass that plane and continue at least 24 inches toward the interior, measured as required along the roof assembly. Suppose the horizontal reach of the eave overhang is 3 feet and the applicable measurement adds 2 feet beyond the exterior wall plane. The required reach from the low edge is not merely 2 feet. In that simplified example, it reaches 5 feet in total. The point is not to memorize one house. The point is to locate the wall plane before calculating the membrane width. On a roof slope of 8 and 12 or greater, where the ice barrier is required, the barrier must also extend at least 36 inches, measured along the roof slope from the eave. The words also and where required matter. A steep slope does not by itself prove that every California project needs an ice barrier. The climate trigger still has to apply. Ice dams make the wall line measurement easier to understand. Heat loss can warm an upper portion of a snow-covered roof while the overhanging eave remains colder. Meltwater can run down. refreeze at the colder eave, and backwater up beneath the roof covering. Extending the barrier inside the exterior wall, plane protects the transition toward the conditioned part of the building. I would still verify whether the project location triggers the requirement, and whether approved documents or local amendments add anything further. Underlayment quality does not matter if the roofing operation exposes workers to an uncontrolled fall. For residential-type roofing activities, the supported California trigger is a potential fall distance of 6 feet or more above the grade or level below. The safety table emphasizes 4 decisions. Measure the fall from the walking and working surface to the grade or level below. Apply protection when that distance is 6 feet or more. Do not subtract the height of a parapet from that roof height measurement. Do not replace conventional protection with a written plan merely because the conventional method costs more time or effort. The research identifies conventional systems, such as a personal fall arrest system, scaffolding, a safety net, or a guardrail. The appropriate system depends on the work and site conditions. If an employer proposes a site-specific written fall protection plan instead, the employer carries the burden of demonstrating that conventional systems are infeasible or create a greater hazard. Inconvenient and infeasible are not interchangeable. Extra setup time, added cost, or a crew preference does not establish infeasibility. The supported standard requires a demonstration tied to whether conventional protection can be used or whether it creates a greater hazard. A supervisor should not casually approve a monitor or a written plan as an automatic shortcut. Imagine a residential re-roof with a potential fall of 10 feet to the landscaping below. A foreman remembers a higher threshold from a different activity and says no protection is needed. I would stop the roofing activity. The supported residential roofing trigger is 6 feet, and the 10-foot exposure exceeds it. If a short parapet is present, its height is not deducted from the measurement. This distinction is bigger than memorizing a number. Roofing, framing, and other construction activities can have different rules and conditions. I need to identify the activity actually being performed, then use the rule governing that activity. Borrowing a comfortable number from another context is not field judgment. I want to turn all of this into a practical pre-covering walkthrough. First, I confirm the roof planes and their actual slopes against the approved documents. That separates the 2-layer range from the 1-layer range and catches mixed slopes on additions, porches, and the main roof. Second, I inspect the deck and the underlayment before concealment. In the lower slope range, I verify the 19-inch starter, the 36-inch sheets, and the 19-inch recurring overlap. In a 1-layer area, I verify the 2-inch horizontal laps. At every applicable roll end, I check the 4-inch end lap and the 6-foot offset from the course below. Third, I look for wrinkles, buckles, or fastening conditions that could interfere with shingle sealing. I confirm whether the project is in the supported high wind design condition and verify the required fastening grid and hardware rather than judging wind exposure from appearance. Fourth, I walk the perimeter. At the eave, the underlayment is over the drip edge. At the rake, it is under. Drip edge joints overlap at least 2 inches. The metal reaches at least 1/4 inch below the sheathing and at least 2 inches back onto the deck. Fifth, I verify the ice barrier decision for the project climate. If the requirement applies, I locate the exterior wall plane and measure to at least 24 inches inside it. On a slope of 8 and 12 or greater, I also verify at least 36 inches along the slope from the eave. Finally, I separate the roof assembly check from the worker protection check so neither disappears behind the other. For residential type roofing, a potential fall of 6 feet or more triggers protection. Parapet height does not reduce that measurement, and an alternative written plan requires the employer to demonstrate infeasibility or a greater hazard. That sequence is the general building perspective. I am not replacing the roofing trade's installation instructions or the authority having jurisdiction. I am coordinating the work, catching visible defects, confirming the conditions that change the rule, and preserving inspection readiness before expensive work covers the evidence. Here's the final memory check. Below 4 and 12, beginning at 2 and 12, the asphalt shingle underlayment uses the double layer pattern. Exactly 4 and 12 begins the 1-layer range. The double layer starts with 19 inches, then uses 36-inch sheets overlapping 19 inches. Single layer horizontal laps are 2 inches. End laps are 4 inches and offset 6 feet. Over at the eave, under at the rake. Where ice history triggers a barrier, measure at least 24 inches inside the exterior wall line, and remember the additional 36-inch slope measurement at 8 and 12 or steeper. For residential type roofing, 6 feet is the fall protection trigger, and a parapet does not erase the exposure. I made an audio practice quiz specifically for this episode's underlayment and roofing safety material. It is audio-based, the questions are read aloud, and you answer by tapping, which makes it useful when you're driving, working, or studying on the go. Go to the description below this video. You will see a link that says Pass the CSLB. Tap it. It will take you straight there. If anything in this lesson raised a question, comment below and tell me what you want clarified. Subscribe so I can help you stay on track through every episode until you get your license. I know this study time has to fit around real work, and I am glad to keep guiding you one clear decision at a time.